Hey everybody, On the Run with Beards and Dunn is back. Hey Beards, how's your day going?
Done. Good. I'm just getting ready to go back out to the Chamberlain, Bone Steel, South Dakota area again. I just got back last Sunday. I'm heading back out there tomorrow. I've got some guide trips out there. You know, we're out fishing in boats out there, and I've the walleye season, which is mainly what we fish for this time of the year, doesn't ever close out there, and we still have ice here. And so yeah, I'll be heading out there tomorrow, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And you just got back from Tucson.
I did. I was out in Tucson, Arizona. This was my seventh time. Me and a friend from New Bern, North Carolina. His name is Bobby Kennedy, and he listens to our podcast. So I'm shout out to Bobby. And then we got another buddy of ours named Chuck Forrest, and Chuck's 68. I'm 60, going to be 67 this month.
Right.
Bobby, I think 65, going on 66. And we have a fourth guy that comes with us out of New York every year. His name is Matt Bell, and he's the baby of the group. He's 60.
Oh,
so
my.
A bunch of us young bucks. And we go out and we rent a house on VRBO. You can find them on, VRBO or
Sure.
Whatever. And usually when you split it four ways, it's pretty economical. We rent a big van. We get a 12-passenger van, even though there's only four of us. And what we do is we take the back two seats, even though you're not supposed to do this according to the rental agreement. We take the last two seats out of the van, and our four bikes line up just perfectly.
Oh, nice.
So we can drive, because I don't know if anybody's ever been to Tucson, but in the summertime, Beards, what do you think the average temperature is in Tucson, Arizona?
It's got to be over 100.
It's 100 plus, probably close to 120. And the roads in town are just horrendous because they buckle every summer. They get cracks. And so biking is a little rough in town. They have some bike trails you can take, but we usually take our bikes and we'll ride out to a point on the edge of town. And we'll ride up. There's a place called Gates Pass, which is a nice climb out in Segura National Park. There's another park on the east side, which is Segura National Park East. Then Mount Lemmon. Mount Lemmon is a mountain right there. I tell you, if you're in Tucson, you'll see Mount Lemmon. It's right there in front of you. And it's about 8,300 feet at the top. And Tucson sits at about 2,500 feet. So it's over 6,000 feet.
So you're climbing the
right
whole
up
way?
It's 25 miles of pretty much nonstop climbing. There is a few little flatter spots on the way up. But trust me, and they're very appreciated when you're going up. Coming down is we always say in cycling, you paddle out against the waves and then you surf in. Well, you go up the mountain, you get to surf down the mountain.
So when you're going back down, you probably don't even pedal, do you?
Oh, you really don't have to if you don't want to. But, if you want to kind of push the limits a little bit.
So how fast are you going when you're coming down?
I think coming down, I got up to 45 miles an hour.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, Beards, but that's under control. I'm feathering the brakes going into a lot of those corners. I've got this high. I shouldn't be bragging about this because it's probably people going to. I'll probably get my life insurance policy canceled.
Hey, right.
I got up to 59 miles an hour here.
59?
59 miles an hour going down a hill on my bike here, not too far from our house. If you come to visit, which I think you are in April.
Oh, yeah, in a month.
I'll show you. It's 10 miles from our house. It's this hill. It's 18% gradient.
Oh, my gosh.
At the top. I tell you, going up it, it's almost impossible. Man, when you come down that baby, it's like a free fall. And I got up to 59 coming down it.
When you're going that fast on a bike, it probably seems like you're going twice that fast compared to being in a car. But is it kind of scary?
It is. It's like riding a roller coaster. You're afraid and you're having fun all at the same time. And I'm not endorsing this. I mean, I've been biking for 32 years, and I've got a really good bike with hydraulic disc brakes.
Yeah, you're an experienced biker.
Well, I'd like to think, but I'm kind of crazy. And so you don't want to take chances you don't have to. But sometimes, Beards, now that I'm retired and I'm getting to that point in my life, going to be 67 years old, which is a blessing in itself.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to have fun. Within reason. And so I put a note, somebody put a note on a Facebook group I'm part of. I'm part of a lot of Facebook groups because if you have interest in biking, there's a group for people who have my type of bike. There's just a group of us.
Oh, cool.
And somebody said, what's the fastest you ever got on this type of bike? And they were like, at 53, 55. And I said, well, I got up to 59.5 actually. And I said, I'm not going to go for 60. I mean, that day I did.
Come on, you're that close. Why not hit 60?
See, thanks a lot. I'll go do it and get killed and it'll be your fault.
Well, done. If you would ever wipe out going that fast, you'd be a permanent part of the pavement.
I hate I shudder to think about it. I think, I don't know. You'd slide off into the ditch and hopefully you'd survive. The ditches around here are pretty soft, but yeah, it's kind of crazy stuff. But we go out to Tucson, and for 6 days, we went on Saturday. We came back on Saturday. So we didn't ride really. We just put our bikes. We ship our bikes out there with us. The airlines will let you take your bike now as a checked bag.
Okay. Oh, so they do.
Yes. We all have these bike boxes. You can buy a bike box that'll hold your bike and wheels for a couple $100, and it's well worth it because then you can check it on the airlines.
And then the bike boxes, they're renewable. I mean, you can keep using them.
Yeah. They're it's like a suitcase.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've had the same one now for 4 or 5 years. And so when you get out there, you have to reassemble. That's the hassle. You have to disassemble your bike, put it in the box, then reassemble it. Then we ride for 6 days. And I got to be, we have so much fun, 4 old guys just out biking. And by the time we get up and get moving in the morning, we usually have a hearty breakfast. We're not riding, in the desert, it's cold at night. It got up to pretty much 70 every day we were there and sunny.
Nice.
But at night, it might drop into the 40s. And so, 40 is rideable, but you'd have to wear a jacket and stuff. So we tend to wait till mid-morning. Temperature's well above 50 by then, 55, 60. And
nice.
So it's like 10 o'clock. You load up the van. We drive maybe a half hour to get to where we're going to unload. And then we ride for 2 or 3 hours. You load up the van, you get back. By the time you've cleaned your bike, cleaned yourself, it's like 4 PM. And
I bet.
And it's like, man, can we blow a day off? I mean, it's probably like golf in 18 holes. I mean, some guys, I think, do they try to do 36 holes in a day?
Oh, that's like 8 hours.
Yeah, well, if you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself.
Right.
And so by the time we clean up, we usually then, lucky for me, Bobby and those guys are good cooks. And we all kind of take turns helping out, chopping up vegetables. And we have a really great evening meal. Lunch is usually kind of on the fly. We usually stop at a restaurant that has a Mexican place that has bowls of chips. A few beers are consumed, and then we all, enchiladas, burritos,
how fun.
Oh, I tell you, it's been 7 years that we've done this, and we kind of talked, and so I'm letting the cat out of the bag here. Bobby, the guy that goes with me every year, he lived in Italy for 4 years when after he got out of the service, and he was doing contract work over there for the government. And he got to know, in fact, his son was born in Italy. And when he was little, he spoke more Italian than he did English. But anyway, they go back regularly because they have lots of friends. They're very familiar. We're kind of talking about going to Italy next year.
Oh, done. For to do your bike trip?
Yeah. Oh. And of course, we're going to try to, we decided probably should take the wives with us this time. I don't know if they'd let us go to Italy by ourselves. We may not find our way back.
How fun.
I know. And Bobby said, we can do it fairly economically because if you, the flight, that you can't get around that, whatever your airplane tickets are going to cost. And I think you can find a ticket for less than $1,000 now.
Yeah.
It just depends on the time of the year. And maybe the upcoming election will have something to do with that. I don't know. But then he knows, like he said, Mike, there's like places you rent, kind of like we do in Tucson. They don't call them VRBOs, but I think they do have it like that. And he has not family, but friends who will hook him up. He goes, we'll rent a van to haul our stuff. And it's kind of like what we do, the wives, he goes, maybe we wouldn't ride every day. Maybe we'll go check out some museums or go to a vineyard.
Sure.
But it sounds like one of those once in a lifetime, maybe, or trips. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But cycling has, really been, I loved running, Beards. If I could still run, I'd be running. Biking is the next best thing in my mind.
But Dunn,
and I love it.
You were, when you were running and competing and stuff, and I mean, I don't think anybody loved to run more than you and I did. And then when you got hurt, your knee and stuff, but then I've said this to so many people, you got so into cycling as much or more than you were into running. And you were as big into running as anybody had ever known.
I think it's that obsessive compulsive disorder.
Well, that's like that. But you know what, Dunn, you didn't just say, I got a bum knee, I can't run and sit around and eat chips and lay on the couch all day, man.
Get into gambling.
Good for you.
But no, I really found this, and I really thank Kerry Gress, is a good friend of mine from Dickinson, North Dakota. And Kerry and I used to run together because he was a triathlete. Now, maybe I've told this story, and he would say we'd go do our long runs together very often. And Kerry is just a super, super nice guy, fun guy to be with. And when I got hurt, my knee was keeping me from running, and I was sitting around, and he hadn't seen me for about a month. Because I wasn't running. And he goes, Mike, what's going on? And I said, and I was depressed. I mean, I was sitting around and I go, geez, Kerry, my knee hurts. I can't run. And I've gained 10 pounds, and all this. And he said, and he was a special forces, a guy out of the Marine Corps,
wow.
Rangers, something. Yeah, he's a tough dude. I'll just be honest. He's a badass. But nicest guy you'd ever meet. He said, he didn't mince around. He said, get a bike, come bike with me. And I mean, he just said it like that. It wasn't like, well, maybe you should think about or consider. He just told me to go get a bike and come bike with him. And you know, I really appreciated his, I don't know, assertiveness, because I did. I went and found a bike. And
well, you went and didn't you buy like a $10 Schwinn or something?
I spent $100, $100 on a steel Schwinn bike. It had a kickstand and everything. I didn't know anything about it. It had, you know, index shifting on the down tube. If any,
well, you got to start somewhere.
Well, you do. And that thing was a piece of, well, at the time I thought, man, this is a nice bike. It's a Schwinn.
Yeah.
You know? And then I went riding with these guys, and I figured out real quick, it'd be like racing with your biggest, heaviest training shoes you got on.
Yeah.
Or your old basketball shoes that you have on. And not that you can't do it. It just makes it a lot more work and not as much fun. And so after about 2 or 3 or 4 months of riding that old steel bike, I upgraded to an aluminum frame, $600, something like that. The rest is actually $250. I went from 100 to 250. Then I got hit by a car, got a settlement for like $1,000 because it was my fault, and they replaced my bike. And I spent that $1,000 to buy a $1,200 bike, and now my bike's $10,000. I mean, let's just be honest.
I know.
They just go up and up.
Right.
And up. And I've had, you know, I wish I kept all of those because I'd have a museum full of bicycles by now. But that's me. And you know, life is to be lived and lived to the best.
But you know, the neat thing too is what's developed over the years. Now your wife Karen has gotten into biking. You can do it together now, and what a great thing to be able to do.
It is. It's kind of like, you know, like somebody called it, biking's the new golf. You know, cycling. You know, people used to get couples who join golf leagues and stuff, and you'd invite your friends. Hey, let's go golfing. You know, we can. Well, now people say, hey, let's go for a ride. You know, and Karen and I ride pretty much every day. You know, weather permitting. And and as they say, there's actually no bad weather days. It's just bad clothing choices.
No, and done. You know, if I go golfing, that all it does is it's basically turns into a bad walk. Is what it is. You know?
I think Emerson said golf is just a good walk ruined or something like that.
Right.
You and I went golfing one time, and I got to admit, golfing with you, Dick, is a lot of fun because you don't take it seriously, and neither do I.
No.
And we play winter rules year round.
Oh, yeah.
Put that ball up on a tuft of grass.
Oh, yeah. Tee it up, baby.
So you at least got a shot at it because we'll still muff it up anyway. And I just remember we were up in Beardsley Point, Minnesota, and we golfed, and there were woods on both sides of the fairway. And I
remember that.
We kept, you know, hooking or slicing our balls into the woods. And we went in there. The funny thing is we left with more golf balls than we started with.
Right.
Because we kept finding other people's golf balls, and we just keep them.
Oh.
And that was a good time. Well, you know, I enjoy, this is just what we do when we get together and start yapping. But, you know, since our last podcast, we had Brad Fowley on. And Brad, I really appreciated him taking time, you know, the author. And I just cannot wait for his book to become available to
that book is so good.
It really is. And I really promote it. And, you know, I just watched the movie The Boys in the Boat the other night, Beards. Have you had a chance? It's on Netflix.
No, not yet, but I've heard it's amazing.
It might be on Paramount or on Amazon. I can't remember which one. But we watched it in Tucson, all the guys. Because one of them said, hey, you know, I was telling him about Brad's book, The Front Runner.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's kind of like The Boys in the Boat. And I said, and they all go, hey, that movie's out. And so and one of them said, I think we can watch it. So I said, you got to be kidding me. So we spent one night, and, you know, the movie, they kind of have to shrink it down.
Right.
So it leaves out a lot of and it's kind of, that's the good thing about Brad's novel. You don't have to shrink down the novel. It's a great read. And so we had him on, and, you know, the day before we had him on that Sunday, that Saturday prior to that, you know, you and I both got the terrible news that our good friend Bob Bartling had passed.
Oh.
And we had just had Bob on
6 days after we had him on our podcast.
I know. And you know, and I've had several people say, man, I'm sure glad you guys were able to visit with Bob before that happened.
Me too.
And I saw on the internet or Facebook, it sounds like it was a heart event. I think they ruled it up as a heart attack. It wasn't, you know, because when you die that suddenly, I guess he was fine 1 minute and gone the next sort of thing. And, you know, you always think,
it sounds like it went quick.
Yeah. You know, you always think it had to either be a heart or a stroke or something like that, but it sounds like it was his heart.
Something.
Yeah.
But but 97 and a half years old. And, you know, I tell you, you know, like people have heard, I first met Bob in 1978, you in 1975. But The guy always is smiling, always enthusiastic. He's the biggest Jackrabbit, South Dakota State University Jackrabbit booster I think there's ever been. There'll never be another guy like Bob again.
I'm hoping, and I've heard, I even sent a note to like Rod, David, and some of them, and I go, Bob is right up there. Rich Greeno was another, how do you call it? If they're going to do a Mount Rushmore of running in South Dakota, Rich Greeno's on it. Bob Bartling would be on it.
For sure.
And Rich, was such an outstanding coach and an outstanding person. And he turned out so many outstanding runners.
Goodness, yes.
And when he passed, it was really left a hole in a lot of people's hearts. And they did a great thing. Rich had a lot to do with developing the Sioux Falls bike trail system. Sure. I can remember when I was running, we used to run along the Big Sioux River and we'd follow deer trails. The deer would actually leave a trail through the woods, and you could run, and the path was just wide enough to run through. You tried not to get off it because there's a lot of poison ivy and there's a lot of ditchweed marijuana growing along there too.
Right.
But we'd run through there. Well, Rich was aware of this, and he got with the Parks and Rec Department, and they started putting wood chips on that trail and widening it for the runners. You couldn't really cycle on it, maybe mountain bike if you wanted, but it was mostly walkers and runners would follow it. And it was only a few miles through this really pretty area of the Big Sioux River along the east side of Sioux Falls. Well, every spring the floods would come and wipe out all the wood chips. And we'd have to wait for the water to go down.
Right.
And then that summer they'd be out there again replacing it. And finally they asphalted it. I think it's even maybe concreted it now. So it's pretty much, even though it gets flooded, when the water recedes, there it is. They just clean it and you're good to go. But Rich was, and they put a statue of Rich along the bike trail right near Lincoln High School.
What a great idea.
Oh, what a great honor. So I mean.
And I tell you what, they need to do something like that up around Brookings for Bob, because
that's what I suggested. And I said, if you get enough people like Mike Dunlap and Dick Beardsley who are supporting it, those kind of things aren't cheap. I know I was told the Rich Greeno statue was $200,000. Now,
wow.
I know it's a lot of money, but you get 200 guys, give $1,000.
Right.
You get 400 people, give $500.
But done. The following that Bob had, and so many people knew him, I think we could raise that kind of money in a very short period of time where it wouldn't cost people a lot of money, because there'd be so many people that would want to get involved.
Yeah, if you get 2,000 people each at $100, you got your 200,000. Right. And I know Doug Graves, who is involved with the Prairie Strider Track Club, the Jack 15, the Brookings Marathon. He, you and I, we've met Doug. He's a writer. Dave Graves, excuse me.
Dave.
And he sent me a note saying there's talk about this already.
Is there?
Yeah, it's not like this was a great idea, Mike. Nobody else thought about it. No, they're trying to think of a way to honor Bob. And one of the things he mentioned is that the longest day marathon, Brookings Marathon, I'm not sure how many times. I know Bob ran the Jack 15 like 37 times or something like that. And I'm not sure how many times he ran the Brookings or longest day marathon when it was being held, but they said he was always at the 2-mile mark near 6 Hour Park. That was like his spot. I don't know if maybe they came back by there again later or whatever. And they were talking about maybe putting like something there, like Bob was always there. So the runners kind of knew, here's Bob, and it'll be exciting to see if something develops. I'm sure I know I'd be behind it. And,
if we could all live, maybe not even at that age, but with his vim and vigor and his positive outlook on life and his enthusiasm, I mean, my gosh.
I wish I had a couple days of his enthusiasm and outlook on life, because it was something to be admired. And, I have another little, we love sharing. In fact, the Prairie Striders newsletter, the next one coming out in April, end of April, they said if anybody has any stories, they're going to dedicate.
Dave got a hold of me and asked if I wrote one. In fact, basically, the one that sticks out for me is the one that Bob, you and I talked about when he almost got thrown in jail from the lawyers from New Balance.
The Statehood Days 10 mile. That was such a fun trip, riding down there with Bob and doing well and just kind of, reveling in that. And I got to travel with Bob several times. I went to my first marathon was in Topeka, Kansas in 1975. I was 18 years old and Bob was in his prime, mid-40s. And he got us down to Topeka. And Bob was thrifty.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a good word for it?
That's a good word for Bob.
He's thrifty. He's very efficient. He didn't even spend extra money. And he was aware of this hotel, and it was called, I'm racking my brain here right now. It had a funny name, but it was like the Crown Hotel or the King or something like that. It was, I am not making this up, Dick. It was like double beds, and it was like $5 a night. It was ridiculous.
Oh my gosh.
I think, okay, it might have been $8. We put 4 guys in that room. It was $2 a piece. And Bob,
you said, 4 guys and all the bed bugs.
Oh, and he goes, and it had radiator heat. And Bob said, "Oh, this is awesome. That radiator heat is so moist. You know, otherwise you get dried out. You know, and you wake up in the morning with a sore throat. You're all dehydrated. That great radiator heat." And so we stayed there, and I don't remember having bed bugs, but anyway. And we were able to get back in there. I think we asked them, "Can we come back and shower?" And they didn't care. So I just remember getting in the shower. And it's a small shower stall. Okay, it's fine. We just need to get a shower.
Yeah.
The cement, sloped on all 4 sides of the shower floor to the drain.
Oh, the drain.
And the drain was an open pipe with no cover on it. It was about 3 inches in diameter. And if you didn't, you had to kind of keep your feet off to the side. So
no kidding.
So you didn't slide into the hole with your foot. And I
suck your foot right down.
I was just waiting for some big old rat to come jumping up out of that pipe. But the next year we went back, and I don't think Bob went the second year, but we all said, "Hey, let's go back to the hotel." And we went back thinking, well, maybe the price has gone up a few bucks, but it's still a good deal. It was gone. It had been torn down, and there was a parking lot where the motel was. I'm not kidding you. We went right to the same spot, and that should tell you the value of that hotel. The only other thing is, that spring in January, February of 76, it would have been, I was a freshman in college, and we started our indoor season. We ran a bunch of races up at that Frost Arena on the track, that D-shaped track, the track with the 280 square corners. And I remember it was a beautiful starlit, about 10-degree night, and we had like a track meet. Probably started at 5 or 6, but I mean it was dark out already. And I ran the mile with Mike Bills, Mark Bills, I think Randy Fisher, was a bunch of us, and we all ran like 4:24, 4:25.
Dang.
Yeah, for us, as a freshman.
And on that track too.
Yeah, it was one of I never ran indoor before, and so I was really pumped. I think that was about my fastest in high school, and here I am running indoors on this little track.
Right.
And I remember after the race, I was, jacked up and adrenaline, and Bob was running his evening workout and stopped by the track meet to watch for a while. And so he had his running gear on, stocking hat, gloves, everything that you used to wear in the old days. And he got done. We ran the mile, and I think he said, "Well, I'm going to go finish my run." And I go, "Well, Bob, I need to cool down. Can I go run with you?" "Oh, yeah, sure, Mike, come along." So him and I took out a Frost Arena. So you can picture this in your mind. We went to the north of the bypass on the north side of Brookings, and we went over to where the interstate was. Now, listen to this, people. The interstate wasn't completed past Brookings in 1975, 1976. The interstate ended at Brookings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, you had to get off. Now, you would get off on, what was the 6th Street was the street that goes east and west through Brookings.
Yeah.
Dairy Avenue goes north and south. Well, 6th Street exit off the interstate, you had to exit. If you went straight, you went into a barrier, and they were working on the interstate, but it was not open to cars yet. So as Bob and I went to the north end of Brookings and took the bypass to where the interstate, where you would have went over the interstate or got on the interstate, we took a right onto the entrance ramp. So now we're heading south towards Sioux Falls. We're heading towards the 6th Street exit. It's a mile.
I know exactly where you're at.
The interstate's not open, obviously, but it's paved. The concrete's there, but the shoulders weren't done. There was still, debris. They were still working on the darn thing, but they had the lights up. They had the lights up at both of those intersections. So it was fully lit. And Bob and I were running then that mile down the middle of the interstate, heading to 6th Street exit, and the lights are on, but you can see the stars. It's crystal clear. And Bob and I said, "Bob, man, this is just awesome out here." And he goes, "Yeah, isn't it?" And so it was just one of those, just me and Bob out there running.
Yeah, how cool.
And we got in. We took 6th Street. I bailed off there at the campus to go to Brown Hall where my dorm room was, and Bob just kept going ahead. I think he headed south to where his house was. And it's just one of those memories I'll never forget. Even though it was, I was 18 years old. I can't even do the math in my head.
That's pretty cool.
It's a long time ago. But those, Bob, everybody's got a Bob Bartling story. And I guess the next Prairie Strider newsletter, they're saying if you got one that you think people would enjoy hearing, or, and everybody's got one, don't be hesitant to save it to Dave Graves. And if you go on the website, prairiestridertrackclub.com or Facebook Prairie Striders, you can probably get that information. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I know. He is just something else. Okay. I'm trying to think.
So Don, we just this past weekend were the World Indoor Championships in Glasgow.
I was pretty, I was kind of excited to see what was going to happen because, the level of running in the United States is just, and Beards, let's talk about that. It seems like it's jumped another notch where, breaking 4 minutes in the mile was always kind of like, wow, that's right. That's really good. Well, it's still really good, but it seems like it's not that uncommon anymore. And a lot of these guys are running, college guys are running in the sub 355, 354, 352.
Oh, I know.
The 3,000 meters, Cole Hocker and some of these athletes.
I know it.
Joe Klecker and these guys, they're running times that we would never have dreamt of.
Oh, done. And here's the thing. The U.S. has always been good in the shorter distances, 400 dominant meters on down, right. Dominant. But now, from even starting at 800 meters up through the marathon.
What was his name that won the 800? Hoppel.
Bryce
Hoppel.
What was his? Hoppel. Yeah. He wins 800.
World champion and then, indoors. Yep.
I know. And then the gal that Ellie St. Pierre, she grew up in Vermont on a dairy farm. Her folks still have a dairy farm. She's a New Balance athlete. She just had a
baby,
her first baby 11 months ago, and she wins the 3,000
indoor world title.
Indoor world title and sets an American record.
And was it 8:21? And if you do the math, it's way sub 9 minute 2 mile guys. How many guys wanted to break 9 minutes in the 2 mile? Here's a gal.
Me, and I didn't even come within I think 48 seconds of it in high school.
Yeah, I know, but I think you did it en route to some 10,000 meter times or something like that.
Yeah, but
no, outstanding. And then the 1,500 crew, the men and women both getting silver and bronze. Just great races. I mean, and so it's kind of like, before we came on the air, I said, it wasn't that many years ago. I hate to even say this, 800 on up. The Eastern European African athletes, the Kenyans, the Ethiopians just dominate. Well, now all at once it's like the pendulum. And, this is where I'll go out on a limb and say, the sport is always, cycling's always been questionable about performance enhancing drugs. And in Europe, in Europe, I just saw an article today, and I'm going off on a rabbit hole here, where there was an amateur race, a bicycle race in Spain. 180 athletes signed up to participate. It's an amateur race. Well, some amateur races, even here in the U.S., they do drug testing, random. They just kind of keeping an eye on things because amateurs are wanting to make the jump to professional. And so they sometimes use these performance enhancing drugs to get in a great performance, to get that like, hey, we'll invite this guy to our training camp. Maybe we should get him on our team and pay him to ride for us. Right. Beards, I am not making this up. They announced they were going to have drug testing. Out of the 180 athletes that entered, 120 dropped out.
No.
Dropped out. Yeah. Now, some of them started the race and then claimed they had a mechanical. They claimed that they had an injury. They made reasons that sorry, I couldn't finish. Well, if you don't finish, you're not going to be drug tested. I guess they only
120 out of 180
did not participate, or they did not finish. Well, that's
a foul smell.
You think the comments underneath it and this is amateur racing in Spain. What do you think it's like in Italy? What do you think it's like in France? What do you think it's like?
I know.
I mean, and it's not, I hate to say it, I guess it's not that hard to find individuals or access the products, the drugs, the EPO, the testosterone, those kind of things.
I saw. Oh, go ahead.
Well, now I'm just wondering, you like to think on a world-class level, the IAAF, I think they're the ones who regulate all this. They're really trying to, keep the sport respectable. I don't know, you don't make it a joke. I mean, professional wrestling, I'm probably going to get a bunch of negative comments about this, but as a kid, I even knew it was fake, and stuff.
I didn't until I was 37 years old.
That's because you love Vern Gagne. Vern Gagne, wasn't he from Minnesota?
Mad Dog Vachon.
Anyway, but those guys, it was kind of an act, and they got big and they used steroids and things like that. And blah blah blah. Well, that was entertainment, and now you can say, well, sports is entertainment. Yeah, it is, and a lot of people like to see world records. They like to see great performances, and the bars always seem like, man, how am I going to do better than that? Other than just, I've worked my butt off, and my talent only gets me so far. But to make the next jump, what am I going to have to do? And so I don't know, if it's been that prevalent, but are they, it makes me wonder if they're watching and testing much more stringently. So now the real cream of the crop, not the fake cream of the crop, is maybe rising to the top, which means more of the natural athletes.
Yeah.
I think the Americans are maybe more in that vein, because I think we've been so strict. I mean, Lance Armstrong.
Absolutely.
Lance, really threw a spotlight on performance acting drugs in sport, as has pro baseball, has pro every sport. And so
everything. Well done. Yeah. I just read something or heard something. Now there's a group that, like in running, track and field and whatnot, they want to have two divisions. One, the people are using PEDs, and the other, they're not, and there'd be prize money for the non-PED users and the prize money for the PED users. I'm thinking they are really going down a rabbit hole if they start going that route.
Well, bodybuilding, and correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I know they have natural competitions, then they have competitions. And so
they do? I didn't know that.
100%. Yeah, there are bodybuilders that are all natural. They're not going to use testosterone, human growth hormone, any of those kinds of products, steroids. They're just out there busting their chops, lifting, training, and they get big. They get real great. They diet correctly. They get great physiques. But compared to the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, and Arnold admits he used steroids and drugs in his heyday. He didn't for years, but he finally, it was obvious, and all the other guys admitted that they were doing it, and so was Arnold, and so it's kind of like pro cycling back in the 90s, and even today, there's a lot of athletes that are still doing it. And, in the sport, I think if you're an insider, you kind of already know that.
But Dunn, here's the deal. Okay, you might, you're younger, you're getting some great performances, but if you'd been doing that for years and years, when if you get our age, up into our upper 60s now, what's that? Are you going to, there sure could be some negative effect on your body, I would think.
I think I read I don't know if it's Jordan Peterson or some psychologist. They said they had a survey, and they asked young people, and I hate to muck it up, but they said, okay, if we give you this pill, you'll have, and this is fiction, but you'll have like all the money and success, like for the next, I'm not kidding, 15 years. Life will be so much fun for you, but it'll shorten your life, like 15 years. And so, or you don't, and you get to live to be like 75 and you're 80, or, there won't be any limit to how old you are. And guess what? And I can't remember the number, but a huge group of the people said, give me the money. I want the fun and the excitement now. They don't look long-term. They think, and Beards, I remember you and I, when we were kids, I had people tell me when I was in college and had knee surgery, and they go, well, you better quit that running, or when you're 55, you're going to need a knee replacement. And I thought, Rick, if I make it to 55, I'd be ecstatic. And if I need a knee replacement at 55, I'll be happy to get one. Well, now I'm 66, going on 67. And maybe I did overtrain, and, there is too much of a good thing. Now, you and I are probably not the best examples, because, you want to push the limits. Yes. And Brad Fowley's book talks about this, The Coach. It's fiction, but he said the rest is just as important as the training. And most athletes think it's the training. And done.
And my older age now you'll be 67 on the 20th of March. I'll be 68 on the 21st. So we're about exactly a year apart. But, I look back now and I understand it now, how more important that so-called rest. And when I say rest, it's not just sitting around eating chips and laying on a couch. But done. Both of us were like this. If we went out the door, we were pretty much hammering 7 days a week, twice a day.
It's sad. I look back now and you go, man, if only I would have. I ran 219 at Houston with you when you ran 212. Then we went to statehood days. I ran 49, 40 something. I'm on a roll. Well, right after that, I tore a hamstring. It's like your body saying, look, buddy, you've pushed me farther than I can handle. And something's got to give. And if you don't,
John, I remember when you tore that hamstring. It was a year before you could even run.
It was almost a year because I even tried. I went to see Dr. Bill Watson, an orthopedic surgeon in Sioux Falls, and I was desperate. And he said, "Mike, we can try injecting it with some cortisone." I said, "Do it. I don't care." And he goes, "Right." And he said, "The problem is." The tear's way up. It was like under my butt cheek, in all honesty.
Yes.
Right where you sit on the chair. And he goes, it's really hard for me to get the needle, and I'm hoping, and I go, do the best you can, doc. I didn't care. And he did. And it didn't seem to help. And, a lot of it might've been for whatever reason. At the same time, my body then naturally healed. It took, like you said, months and months and months. But, you look back and now and you go, man, it was the dead of winter. I ran Houston in January, statehood days in February. Why were you out training so goddamn hard in February?
You and I probably had gotten together for a few hard, long runs in that period. I'm sure of that.
The races are like the good races are in June, July, August, the summer, the fall. But here you are busting your hump on icy roads in the cold, trying to get faster rather than, I'm in great shape. I'm going to maintain it. Do some cross training, cross training. That was running 3 times a day instead of twice a day. But
it was done. If I had extra time, I just ran more miles.
I know.
But you live and you learn.
Yeah. Another exciting thing. And I don't know how many people that might be listening to this even care, but South Dakota State University Athletic Department just made an announcement, and I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
They have an endowment. A lot of schools. Yale, Harvard. Can you imagine the endowments? Duke. They have $1 billion endowments where the money creates money that they use for projects and programs, whatever. Well, a bunch of SDSU alumni, and I think that Bargmann was the main leader of this was his name. But Rob Beyer, Brad Court, Todd Sheldon. I'm going to leave somebody out here. I know Clint Wara. There's several that really stepped up to the plate and started an endowment, and it's grown to the point now to where the head cross country and track coach, whoever it is, it's Rod DeHaven at the current time, an alumnus of SDSU, their salary is endowed, which means it isn't part, the athletic budget has to spend money to hire coaches, buy uniforms, travel to meets and travel to games, basketball, football, what have you. And so the money gets thin. The money gets thin, and SDSU's 2-time national football champions, they deserve some new uniforms. There's some new practice equipment, things like that. They've earned it. Well, cross country and track is not a real revenue producing sport. We don't charge a lot admission to most of these things. And the athletes, go on to do wonderful, wonderful things. But
absolutely.
The long story short is it's now endowed. And I think I read it's only 12 programs in the United States that the head cross country and track coach is endowed, which means their salary's secure. That means, if they ever say, man, we got to start looking at cutting some budgets here. Let's be honest, the non-revenue producing sports are hard, looked at really, really hard. And now that's one less risk, I guess, for SDSU athletics.
So Don, how does an endowment work? Did those guys you mentioned put in a bunch of money, or how does that work?
Yeah, they made a substantial investment into the endowment. And the endowment, from what I understand, I'm obviously no financial whiz, is that money that the principal's never touched. That, and it may grow as more people like you and I may say, hey, I want to donate some money to that endowment to really maybe get the assistant coaches, salaries covered and things like that. Well, it'll keep growing, but they take the interest. I think it's $1 million, to be honest with you. I think it's $1 million.
Wow.
Well, do the math. If you have $1 million and you get a 5% return, that's $50,000 a year. So,
exactly.
And most, decent investors will probably do a little better than 5%. And so, it is a big deal, and it's very exciting for South Dakota State track and field and cross country that the head coach's salary is secured.
Yeah.
And so I think that
really is.
And it speaks well to our alumni. Those guys I mentioned, and I'm sure there's a lot more that, stepped up to the plate and said, you know what, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. SDSU, being part of that program really helped me to be a better runner, better person. It helped me with my career. And I'm more than happy now to pay back, and it's that payback thing and stuff. I think we're getting, what are we up to? About 40 minutes. Beards, before we cut off, let's do a little preview. We never do this usually. But we're going to have another guest. I've enjoyed,
can't wait.
We really enjoy having guests and Beards and I sat down and kind of made a list, and man, well, Dick knows a ton of people, and lucky through my association with Dick,
so does Don.
I know a lot of people too. And we invited a guy to be on our podcast next week. So after this podcast comes out, the next one, his name is Rich Benyo, Benyo, Richard Benyo, but he goes by Rich. And I encourage everyone to go to their computers and Google search Rich Benyo. Just put in richardbenyo.com or richbenyo.com. And he has a webpage. And I tell you, read it. It is so impressive. Rich is a runner through and through. He's an author. Brad Fowley may have his book out. I think Rich has written up to like 24 books. He's edited, co-edited, co-written. He's a humorist. He's a humorist. He does Mark Twain every year. He is a unique character, and I got to meet him through the Dick Beardsley Marathon Training Camp. Dick invited him to be one of our coaches, and Rich is a wife, Rhonda Provost, is an outstanding runner in her own right. And they are,
Mikey, it's going to be so much fun.
If you ever heard of the Bad Waters 100 in Death Valley, you wonder what is that all about? You are definitely going to listen to our next podcast after this one.
Yeah, you're gonna have a fun time with Rich, and he is. I've known Rich for a long, long time, and he's a character, but in a good way.
Yeah,
and you, I can't wait for next week to sit down with you.
As Dick would say, as Beards would say, it's going to be a hoot. It's going to be a hoot. All right, I love it.
Exactly. Well, hey. Listen, we want to thank everybody for listening, and if you have any questions for us or comments about the show, you can contact us directly here at our website at beardsanddunpod.com, or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook, Instagram, or X, all at Beards and Dun Pod.
And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to hit the comment, subscribe. We just enjoy that you guys are still listening, and we hope you get something out of all this. But Beards, I hope you have a great, safe trip to South Dakota. And
you bet you done. And listen, I want you to hit that 60-mile-an-hour mark going down that mountain.
Stop it. Bye.
Hey, buddy, we'll talk next week.
See you later, bud.
All right, bye-bye.